So we've successfully laid out these wall plates right here. And the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and start cutting our studs and our jacks and stuff like that. So we're gonna actually make a pattern for that, because are we gonna have to cut a lot of studs, you think? Yeah, I bet. So we're gonna write down here, we're gonna write stud, pattern. All right, and we're going to figure out how big we want our studs to be, okay, on this sheet of paper, and then we'll explain why we're going to put it down here. So, how tall was our garage in real life? Do you remember what the wall height was?
10 feet.
It was 10 feet, so we're going to write that number down. 10 feet, okay? And if we wanted to, we can convert this into inches. It's 120 inches, okay? Since we want our wall height to be 10 feet, all right, we need to subtract 1, 2, 3 plates from the overall height. So 1, 2, 3 pieces to our overall height to get to 10 foot. We have a bottom cap, we have a bottom plate, a top plate, and a cap plate. So we're going to take 120 inches, and we are going to subtract the thickness of 3 plates. Do you remember how thick a 2x4 was? What was the thickness?
Okay.
What do you think it is? Well, it's an 1/8 in scale, because that happens to be the size that we buy the sticks, but do you remember how big? What do you think? Just take a guess. I don't care if it's wrong. If it's a 2x4, do you think it's 2 inches wide?
It was, no.
It wasn't 2 inches. It was a little bit smaller, wasn't it?
Yes.
What was it? Was it 1.5 inches?
I think it was an inch and a half.
It was 1.5 inches. So we need to subtract 1, 2, 3 1.5 inch pieces. All right. Well, a total of 3 1.5 inch pieces equals 4 1/2 inches. So it's 120 minus 4.5 inches. So 120 minus 4.5 is going to get us to 115.5 inches. So now we need to convert that into in real life. So let's take that there. 115, let's see, 10 foot. So our actual wall height's going to be, our actual stud height's going to be 9 foot. Let's see, we took 4.5 off, 7.5. In real life, 9 foot, 7.5. So let's see, what is 9 foot in real life? 9 foot would be 2, 4, 6, 8. 8 gets us to 8 foot. 8.5. I'm sorry, 4.5 gets us to 9 foot. So 4.5 equals 9 foot. And now we need to find 7.5 inches. So that's a quarter. A quarter equals 6. It'd be a quarter, so it'd be 5/16. So it is 4.5 inches plus, I'm sorry, 4.5 inches plus 5/16. So 4.5 plus 5/16 equals 4 1/2 inches plus 5/16 inches equals this. Well, that's kind of hard to add up, so let's convert it to this. 4 8/16 plus 5/16. What is 8 plus 5?
13.
So it's 4 13/16 inches. Stud pattern equals 4 13/16 inches. And then what we're going to do is we're going to draw that right here. So we're gonna draw it just like this, all the way down to 4, whoops, fingers in the way, 4 and 13/16 inches. So when we go to cut a stud, all that we do is we take this, we put this right here, we mark it, and then we cut it. Now, if it doesn't come out nice and crisp and clean, what we can do is we can just carefully sand it right down to that line if we need it to be. Do you think this stuff sands pretty darn easy? Yeah, it's so tiny. All right, so that's a stud pattern. Now we need to think about a jack. Now we need a jack pattern because our jack's going to help hold up that header. Well, I know that in real life, a rough opening height for a door is going to be 6 foot 8 inches. So we need to convert the 6 foot 8 inches, all right, into what's going to be the height of our scale. But we also need to think about one more thing here once we do this, and I'll explain it to you in a minute. So let's take our rough opening height of 6 foot 8 inches and convert that into a scale. 6 feet would be 3 inches. 8 inches would be roughly 5/16. It's actually a little bit more than that. It's 5/16 would technically be a quarter plus a 16th. That would be 6, 7. It'd be 7.5. 6 foot 7.5. But let's take a look at this. This 6 foot 8 rough opening is from the very bottom of the floor to the top of the header. And what do we have at the bottom of the wall? What's down here at the very bottom of our wall? It's a bottom plate, right?
Yes.
Do you think we're probably going to have to cut that bottom plate out to install our door in?
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's going to be a tripping hazard. So it's actually 6 foot 8 minus 1.5 inches. So it would be 6 foot 6 and 1/2 inches. And I know that 6 foot was 3. And I know that, let's see, 6 inches was quarter. Now, this gets me to 6 foot 6. It's such a small scale that I can't add a 1/2 inch on. So we're gonna leave our our jack pattern at 3¼ inches. And we're gonna write that right over here. Jack pattern was 3¼ inches. And I'm just gonna draw a starting line. And we're gonna go down to 3¼ and at our finish line we're gonna put that, and I'm just gonna draw an arrow down. So if I wanted to cut a jack, I would do the same thing, bring it over, mark it out, and cut it. So that's how we went ahead and figured out what our stud pattern is going to be and what our jack pattern is going to be. If we actually cut the studs at 10 foot, would our actual wall height wind up being 4.5 inches taller? And we wouldn't want that, would we? Now, we couldn't put any drywall in or anything like that. We'd be having a tremendous amount of waste trying to do something like that. But that's what I wanted to show you guys, so we'll be working on that next time we're in class.